Casey Thompson transferring from Nebraska to who knows where, took a visit to Auburn this past weekend. And I'm always interested by the timing of these visits. In the portal Friday, on a visit to Auburn the following weekend. Coincidence? I think not. I think there's a lot of smoke around Auburn. Talked to some people close to that situation, and they said Auburn left that visit feeling really good about where they sit with Casey Thompson. So I want to ask the question, does this make sense? Would this be a fit for Casey Thompson at Auburn? Would Auburn have a fit with adding Casey Thompson into their situation? It'd be a talent upgrade, but is it a fit? That's where I really want to focus in right now. For Casey Thompson, I think it makes a lot of sense for his situation. He's got 1 year left, and you walk into that quarterback room in Auburn, Alabama, and you are the best quarterback in that room. Still have to win the job, still have to get comfortable in the offense, still have to win the locker room. It's a very big deal with transfer quarterbacks, especially after having missed the spring. But talent-wise, you're the guy when you step in. The other piece of this is the quarterback-friendly system that Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery have in place at Auburn. It's a lot of run-pass option. It's up-tempo. It plays well to a quarterback's skill set, but specifically Casey Thompson's skill set because of his dual-threat capabilities. You look at Hugh Freeze and the success he's had with guys like Malik Willis. Philip Montgomery coached up guys like RG3. Got himself a nice little Heisman Trophy. So the skill set and the system marry really well. I think fit, especially for transfer quarterbacks that have 1 year, like a Casey Thompson. I like the marriage there. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, on top of that, as I was alluding to, both Philip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze, they have a really strong track record of helping different quarterbacks be successful. And different quarterbacks with different skill sets. Like Case Keenum, pocket passer. Philip Montgomery, got him to the league. Case Keenum's still in the league, I believe. RG3, I was just talking about him. Very different player than Case Keenum. Got him a Heisman Trophy at Baylor. Malik Willis, wasn't able to get it done at Auburn, comes to Liberty, goes and gets drafted. So I'm just saying, I think Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery, their track record with quarterbacks, if I'm Casey Thompson, that is enormously attractive to me. Enormously attractive. So if Casey Thompson wants to go play in the NFL, I'd be looking at who's going to help me develop, and I'm looking at which system do I fit best in. And Auburn, for the reasons I just mentioned, I think checks a lot of those boxes. So that's the Casey Thompson side of things. Really quickly, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, follow me on the gram, at JD Piquel. Y'all, we got to do it. We got to make sure we throw that in there so y'all can join the party with us. Just subtle reminders, okay? Subtle reminders are key. Appreciate you for that. Now, is it a fit for Auburn? That's what we got to ask here. Because for Casey Thompson, I see all the fit in the world, but for Auburn, is he a fit? Well, same thing I was just saying with Casey Thompson. You upgrade the quarterback room, okay? You upgrade the talent in that quarterback room. The big variable for me is, are you able to build around him appropriately? Like, are there other wide receivers that you get through the portal here in this cycle that can step up? Do you have guys on your roster that eventually blossom into what you think they could be? Does Camden Brown end up translating to that wide receiver one kind of role in his second year at Auburn? I don't know. It's a very big piece of this. But if you don't have the wide receivers around this quarterback, well, then we never really get to see what Casey Thompson would be at Auburn. So that's a big variable. But the overall feeling I have on this is if you add Casey Thompson, your ceiling for your team just gets bumped much higher, in my mind at least. Like with Robbie Ashford right now, I've told you before, I think you can be hopeful to win right around 8 games. And that's great. 8 games your first year. For Hugh Freeze, that'd be significant improvement. You're playing for a bowl game. Like 8 games, I think is solid. But to have that be your ceiling, I don't know if I feel tremendous about that. I don't know if I want to put our ceiling at 8 games. For Casey Thompson, if you add him to that roster and you put him into that offense, I think Auburn's win total ceiling, again, this is the ceiling, I think it's somewhere around 9 or 10 wins. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. I'm not saying Auburn becomes an SEC title contender. I'm just saying the games that you're able to play in with Casey Thompson as your starting quarterback, with his dual threat abilities and with what he can do pushing the ball vertically, I think that gives you a much higher ceiling for win total and for how you can play these different games, okay? Because you're going to have a really good backfield. I think the offensive line is going to be substantially improved with what they did through the portal. The defense, they've retooled that through the portal as well, so it's going to be improved from a talent perspective. But if you have the quarterback better and have the wide receivers step up, Auburn could be cooking. All right, they could be cooking with gas down there. Now, here's the other piece of this that I don't know gets talked about enough in this conversation. Auburn is also, from what I'm hearing, intrigued at the prospect of adding someone like a Payton Thorne. Now, Payton Thorne, we talked about him earlier in this live show, but he is transferring. He's in the portal, at least, from Michigan State. And we'll see what happens with him. We'll see who else vies for his services. But Payton Thorne, on paper, could be a 2-year option for you. He'll be draft eligible after this coming season. But if he wants to, he could stay in Auburn, Alabama for 2 years, should you end up going with Payton Thorne. So the conversation then becomes, do we add Payton Thorne and hope he stays for 2 years? Or do we add Casey Thompson because we feel like he gives us a better chance for 1 year? And that's, of course, a big if you feel like he does give you a better chance. For me personally, I would take Casey Thompson over Payton Thorne, and here's why. I think Casey Thompson, as a dual threat quarterback, is more dynamic. I think he allows you to potentially cover up some things that you're not yet sure about on the offensive line. You got better through the portal, but are we positive that's going to be buttoned up and good to go when it comes to 2023? So he can escape some trouble with his legs. And also, I just love the fact that he is a little bit more in the spotlight. Like he's been through adversity here. He played at Texas. We all know how bright that spotlight is at Texas. Played at Nebraska, also a very visible brand. Took his lumps there. He's going to get to the SEC, and it'll be new, sure. But I think with the battle scars he has, I like the way he matches up with where Auburn is right now. Year one, no one's really given Auburn much of a chance. Saying it's going to take some time. Casey Thompson, he's got 1 year, man. He's got 1 year left to make his NFL dream come true. He's a little bit desperate in a good way. Not a negative way, in a good way, he's desperate. Like a hungry dog. Hungry dogs run fast, man. That's just the reality. So here's the deal. 2023 is a very big year for Auburn in the sense of putting together a trajectory for what they're going to be down the road. And trajectory is huge for what? Recruiting. I would take the 1 year with Casey Thompson over 2 years with Payton Thorne, because if I get a solid 1 year in 2023, and let's say Auburn does go win 8-9 games, well, then I can pitch to recruits, hey, listen, you see what we're doing here, right? First year, we already won 8 games, 9 games. Come be a part of this. Saw what Casey Thompson did in this offense? Come be a part of this. If Payton Thorne ends up being your quarterback, I'm not saying you can't do the same thing, but if you feel like Casey Thompson is more dynamic, and I do, I think that's the way that you go. Take the 1 good year and sell the trajectory of the program going forward. So that's how I feel about Casey Thompson. That's how I feel about Auburn. But to be honest, I think either of those guys would be an upgrade, and I think that the majority of Auburn faithful would agree with that sentiment. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.